Good afternoon and welcome back to Real Estate Live UK's first week of events in 2021. Real Estate Live UK is a week-long programme of events brought to you by White Label and our partners, and that includes places, developers, property sector organisations across the UK. The programme, which will see 3 weeks of events this year, one now, one in June and one in October. This seeks to keep up the property and regeneration sector and keeps them engaged and updated. We have a fantastic lineup of events planned this week to do just that. You can view more details on the sessions taking place this week on the website, realestatelive.co.uk, and I'll let you know about some of the others taking place at the end of this session. Now, before we begin our next panel, we're just going to launch a short poll asking what will be the most significant trend for regeneration professionals in 2021. There it is, so click on the answer that you like the best. And while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our next session. It's all about green place shaping, and we're very, very lucky to have an excellent panel here. Taking charge of it for us is Nicola Mathers of Future of London. So I'm going to hand over to Nicola and say I'll see you at the end.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ross. So delighted to attend you this afternoon. A very warm welcome. As I said, I'm going to be chairing this afternoon, and our focus and what we're going to be exploring and discussing and debating is this idea of shaping greener places. So going from emissions to e-bikes in partnership with Hammersmith BID. So this afternoon we've got an amazing panel, and obviously the context of this is the fact that we are looking across the UK and globally to reduce our carbon emissions and create healthy places for not just our residents, but our businesses and our visitors. And although we've seen significant improvements in the emissions through lockdown, what we want to see is that continuing when we come back and we come out of lockdown. We've obviously also seen a huge increase in online retail. And so we want to look at that, at the impact of e-vehicles and the future for e-vehicles as well. So our panel this afternoon is going to focus at the beginning in what's been happening in Hammersmith, which is fantastic, but then our panel is going to tell us what else is going across London and actually across wider UK and maybe even overseas. So the way we're going to do the format this afternoon is I've got a couple of questions and we're going to go through each panel member in turn, and then there's an opportunity for you to ask questions. So if at any point during the event you've got reflections, you've got comments, you've got questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom that you can see at the bottom of your screen. Put those questions in at any time and I'll try and pick up as many as we can later on in the session. And we are due to finish on time at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so we've got lots to go through. So I'd like to take my first question to the panel, and that's to Patricia and Livia, who are running the Hammersmith Business Improvement District. And the first question to you is if you can tell us about the projects that the Hammersmith BID has delivered to drive the clean growth agenda, also what you're doing now, but also what your plans are for the future. So over to you, Patricia and Livia.
That introduction and welcome, Nicola. Very much appreciate it, and very grateful for this opportunity to share with everybody about what the BID is doing and has been doing over recent years. This week is a very, very significant week for Hammersmith BID. As many people who are here this afternoon know, BIDs have to go to ballot every 5 years and for a renewal and a new mandate. And our ballot opens this week. So this is the very week, it's really, really crucial, nail-biting week for us. But in the spirit of the ballot, I thought if we could have a quick poll. I know, Natasha, if you could put up a quick poll on air quality. Very quickly, if you could just say how important is improving the air quality in your area to you and your company. If you choose one of those, extremely, fairly, not bothered, or not important at all, and then we can just see how we get on with that. Okay. So as you can see, the vast majority of people, extremely important, and I'm absolutely delighted you all said that, because that reflects completely what we found out in our consultations to put together the business plan for the ballot. the air quality, environment and sustainability, all that green recovery, that green agenda has come up as important as anything, as important as a high street, as important as any other recoveries and security. So, and we want to reflect that in our plans and ambitions going forward. And we want to do that in partnership. And everything we've done so far, and we've had some success in the business, the BLEN, the low emissions neighbourhood, that stands for where we've done extra greening in the town centre, with the zero emissions delivery, which Livia will go into detail with in a second, and all these other projects that we've had over the years. The main thing, though, in all of this is that we don't do it alone, and I'm very pleased that some of the partners that we've had over the years, obviously the borough, the Hammersmith and Fulham, London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, the GLA, TfL, they've all been very supportive and excellent partners for us over the years, and we want to continue working with them in building a vision for Hammersmith as well. Not just projects, but an overall vision, the greening, so that we do build back better and we do embrace that green recovery that we all want to see. So I'll hand over to Livia now, who will go into more details into the projects that we've been doing over the last few years.
Thanks, Tricia. And I think you might be able to see some pictures of some of the projects we've done, which include the partnership work Patricia's mentioned with GLA, TfL and Council, as well as our businesses. So some of the business low emissions neighbourhood and the parklets and things that we have installed and beehives. But one of the other projects we've had in the pipeline, an example of something that a project that has taken off for the green to improve the area, is Parcels Not Pollution. So that basically consists of a last mile delivery service that we wanted to be environmentally friendly. And the aims were to reduce pollution and congestion in Hammersmith town centres. It often came up as one of the most polluted areas of London, and congestion was a really high priority for our businesses to tackle. We decided to look at business deliveries primarily for the Parcels Not Pollution when we launched it, as at the time, business deliveries made up a large proportion of the vehicles in the town centre throughout the day. So obviously that has changed now, but that was our target. And we worked in 2018 closely with Hammersmith and Fulham as well, working on feasibility studies to see just how we could make this happen and what the needs for our specific area were. We had a lot of business engagement, one-to-one with businesses and transport forums, as well as doing some preliminary delivery audits for our businesses, including buildings like the Arc, who are joining us today, and our shopping centre, King's Mall. So we had all of that information, and then we were lucky enough to receive some TfL Healthy Streets funding of £50,000 to kind of launch the project in September 2019. And at that point, we had Ecargo bikes as our supplier, as we felt that they were best able to deliver what we wanted to for this project, which was very much focusing on incoming business deliveries, although we're now expanding. I'll talk about that in a second. So we wanted to make the process really simple. As you can see on the screen, we decided to have a 3-step process. So you sign up with a short form. So if a parcel comes in for Livia Caruso to our hub, our rider knows who to deliver it to. And the second thing is to ensure that when you do fill out your Amazon delivery or ASOS delivery online, you put in the hub address instead of your own. Or if you're ordering, for example, stationery, those are the kind of orders that we were targeting at the time. You instruct your supplier to put in the hub delivery that you can see, hub delivery address you can see on screen. And then the final step is simple, you just get your delivery. And we've had lots of different goods delivered, be it milk, stationery, as I mentioned. We even had furniture from one of our local shops. So really, there is nothing we can't deliver. And David will speak more about that in a bit. And in the first 6 months of service, March 2020, we'd hit almost all of the targets that we had set for the 2-year project initially. It was initially a 2-year project. We are carrying this on. But then obviously COVID happened and lockdown happened. So a lot of the office staff who had been receiving the deliveries in the town centre were no longer there. And we adapted the service to address the immediate needs. And what that really meant was that, for example, from April, we worked on a project with Kingsmore Shopping Centre delivering food parcels to our local community, those who needed it. And we delivered 500 food parcels. We also helped the local food bank with donations and deliveries. We also worked on adapting the service for our office users, so creating an office to home delivery service for example, IT infrastructure that was in the office that then needed to be brought to an employee's home. And over Christmas, we launched a parcels to home so that shops in the town centre could deliver straight to people's houses. Our rider also met people with doing their kind of weekly shop or for, shopping for shielding friends or relatives and delivered to their homes. And again, these have all worked very well. And we're also working on a pilot at the moment, trials for national organisations, national companies that may not yet offer home delivery service, but want to trial it on a local stage and see if that can be rolled out nationally, which we very much hope will be the case. So that's just to give you a quick snapshot of how we hope this can also be replicated in other town centres. As the most important thing we think is behaviour change and educating people to come on this process with you. And it was an unknown service. What allowed, you needed to convince people to start using particle not pollution rather than an established career that they knew. But it was better for the local environment and better for everyone around us if they could do this. So here you can see some of the stats. In the first 15 months, we've made nearly 4,000 deliveries, cycling 3,097 miles and saving 788.49 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions. Yes, what we've learned is very much important to bring the businesses and your customers along with you on the journey, helping them to be educated. So thank you. So I think that's enough from me there.
Thank you so much, Livia and Patricia, and really interesting just to hear how many different ways in which you use that sort of infrastructure. So that's amazing, and I'm sure we're going to hear a bit more from David in a moment. I'd now like to invite Councillor Wesley Harcourt, who is the Cabinet Member for Environment, Transport and Resident Services. And Councillor Harcourt, it would be great to understand from you how important the green agenda is to the council, what projects you've got in place, both in Hammersmith and maybe broader across the rest of the borough. How are you kind of working with your stakeholders to make sure that you've got a greener agenda for your community? So over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's really good to be here because the green agenda is certainly one of the key aims that we have as a council, to be the greenest borough, and air quality is so important in this borough. Hammersmith is actually the centre, one of the main hubs, transport hubs in the capital. You've got the A40, the A4, your routes from the south, all coming into Hammersmith Broadway. And Hammersmith Broadway, along with the Westway, are two of the most polluted areas in the capital. So this is very, very key to our agenda, getting something sorted out. Now, obviously, we are a single borough in London, and what we do is important for the people and the area we live in, but there's also the larger agenda, which is the London-wide, which is affected by the GLA, the regional government, and also we need national government to input into this as well, because air isn't limited to a nice little bubble around Hammersmith and Fulham. Obviously, there's all sorts of things, like we've got Heathrow just down to the west, and one of the things that we did was working with various people to try and oppose the expansion of Heathrow, because all that was going to do was bring even more transport, more pollution, more congestion to the area, which is something our previous speakers mentioned. So what have we done? Well, we've had two commissions around this area, resident-led commissions, one on air quality, and there's one that's just due to report on the ecological and climate emergency. And the comments and recommendations from them are helping us advise us in terms of what we should be doing. So one of the key things is really, as has been mentioned, is the issue of congestion and reducing pollution from traffic. it's persuading people to change in many ways from their current diesel cars and petrol engine cars to electric. And so we've pushed 340 plug-in charging points across the borough. And there's another 300 or so to come in earlier part of this year. And there's a further 10 rapid charging points, and this is we think some of the greatest number in any one borough in the whole of London. So we're pushing very much moving to electric vehicles, which are obviously much cleaner, and we're trying to convert, we're in the process of converting our own fleet to electric as well. Now, we've worked with Transport for London, and Uxbridge Road and King Street are 2 low-emission bus routes. So all the buses that go down there are either electric or hybrid buses now. So that should help clean up the area down there. I'm not going to mention the Ecargo bikes and the parcels not pollution. We've heard all about that, but that was one of the key areas that we worked with. But at the same time, we've also been pushing the use of cycling, and there's temporary cycle lanes. There's about 7 kilometres of temporary cycle lanes in the borough, and those parklets that Olivia just touched on. But the one in Hammersmith Grove, just up from the Broadway, is really important, and that took a lot of work and money provided by the businesses in that area in Hammersmith Grove to help us set those up. And they've provided an oasis of nice clean air in that area, especially in the summer when it gets really hot. Just down the road from there in Lyric Square, we've set up the city tree. Now, what that is, it's a moss-filled panels which absorb pollution and blow out clean, fresh air. So we're hoping that, you know, it makes it a much more pleasant area for people and for businesses around there. You've got all the cafes, you've got the Lyric Theatre and such like there, which are very, very important for everybody. And we've been working with Imperial College, which has got its new facilities just further up in the north of the borough, on developing a solar leaf that is going to again improve air quality, and it's meant to be more efficient than trees. In terms of work with other groups, we're working with Zipcar. They've got a contract for car hire in the borough, and we've agreed with them that by within 3 years they will have all electric fleet. So that's very important there. We're working on no idling campaigns, and we've got funding for North End Road low emission neighbourhood as well. So that's a bit more for the future. We've got now, many of you will know that Hammersmith and Fulham has got major developments going on in various parts of the borough. And so one of the key things there has been implementing the standards for non-road machinery, i.e. building construction machinery and such like, and making sure that that's low emission as well. So that's another area of very important work that we've been doing. Other bits and pieces. Am I still on time? Have I got?
You've had your 5 minutes, so maybe just one or two other initiatives.
Okay,
that would be great. Thank you.
A couple of very quickies. Things I liked was that we lined the area from Hammersmith Broadway along the westway, along the A4 down to North End Road with grass to shield the cyclists and the pedestrians from that. And we worked with King's College on road surfacing materials that stop the particulate matter and dust from being thrown up. Now, I won't say anything more. I'll leave it at that. One of the big problems you have with getting any politician anywhere is keeping them quiet. And I'm afraid I'm no different. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harcourt. That's great. And just a huge list of initiatives that you're doing in the borough, and no doubt we can come back to that. So we've heard from the sort of the local authority point of view. So now I'd like to move to the public sector and to a couple of businesses that are involved and heavily involved in this agenda in the borough. So first of all, to Sean Moran, who's the property manager at Helix Property, who are very much based in the borough. From your point of view, how have you been working with the BID, and how important is this agenda of clean air and pollution reduction to, I guess, your organisation, but also your staff?
Really, really important. I mean, particularly so as we move to a new hybrid way of working. I mean, we all need to do what we can to make our offices and their locations safer, more attractive places to work. I mean, this will include an element of working from home, more flexible shift patterns, hopefully greater choice and variety of season tickets for travel by public transport. I mean, my first involvement with the bid was to attend a presentation by West London Link to create a fly under. That was some time ago. Disappointingly, we're still waiting for the removal of the flyover, but the bid haven't sat on their laurels, I'm pleased to say, and they've been very busy improving the area for businesses, residents and visitors alike. Initiatives such as the parklets, which Livia and the councillor mentioned, which are the seated planters at the bottom of Hammersmith Grove. Thank you, Medidata. Regular transport forums in conjunction with the London Borough, Hammersmith and Fulham and TfL. Aesthetically pleasing environmental artwork on the piers of the flyover, which made a big difference, and the CO2 and PM25 scrubbing ivy planters around the gyratory. I mean, that along with the Climate Alliance, which we've all benefited from, particularly Ecargo and Parcels Not Pollution, have all contributed to making the area more secure, cleaner and altogether more pleasing. I'm proud to say the ARC has always fully supported the initiatives, including the current campaign to raise funds for Small Tap Big Change, which is to help the homeless make a fresh start and provide them with food and shelter, in addition to training to improve their employment prospects. I mean, what will tenants want in the future? ISO 14001 requires that we plan and deliver against environmental targets. Having the ear of the bid has been instrumental in setting the landscaping element of this building service charge, which has meant that we're able to maximise our initiatives to gain the most benefit from our limited spend. An example of this was the Business Low Emissions Neighbourhood project, which won a GLA award for Hammersmith BID. In 7 years, Helix property advisors have achieved utility savings in excess of £300,000, and that with the resulting CO2 emissions was achieved by a combination of LED lighting projects, decentralising air conditioning, the extended operation of our gym, and working alongside all of our tenants, including General Electric, GE, Diners Club, who are part of Discover Financial Services, Harrison Parrott and PPD Evadera. We have our own car park, which also offers extensive parking facilities for bikes, scooters, etc., alongside changing rooms within our gym. GE have always provided free towels for all tenants to encourage them to look after their physical and mental well-being, in addition to encouraging staff not to drive to work. More recently, the ARC was amongst the first buildings in the borough to sign up to Parcels Not Pollution. We've also been able to make use of the BID's network of contacts to free cycle redundant furniture, along with recycling tenant surplus stationery items. Going forward, I'm very excited about the BID's plans for public realm and green investment, and look forward to building on another 5 years, hopefully.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Sean. And now let's hand over to David Cockrell, who's Chief of Staff at ecargobikes.com. Obviously, David, we've heard a lot about Ecargo bikes, so great if you could tell us a bit more maybe about the detail about what the offer is, and not just the work you've been doing in Hammersmith, but also in the rest of the UK. And reading your CV, you've obviously been working on this actually globally, so really interesting to hear what you've got to tell us. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. So a brief intro on Ecargo Bikes. So we were founded in November 2016, which seems many, many moons ago. And for a number of years, the founders of the company spent a lot of time looking at the R&D of it. So how can a Ecargo bike in all its shapes, forms and guises be deployed and used within the logistics sector, whether that's for B2B, B2C applications, and how best these types of solution can be dovetailed in. We've had 40 years or so of van and truck think ingrained into every logistician's brain and every procurement and FD person. So my battle every day is to spread the word and challenge them that, and the FDs especially, that it makes financial sense and environmental sense to use Ecargo bikes. We have a fleet of 50 Ecargo bikes and 45 e-bikes at our hubs. We have a hubs in Ladbroke Grove, which services Parcels Not Pollution, and then we have one just north of King's Cross and close to Islington. To give you an idea of a cargo bike, because you may have seen a butcher's bike in some old adverts for people delivering Hovis bread and things like that. The photo that Livia kindly put up showed one of our cargo bikes, which carries 100 kilos payload in around 350 litres of space in a lockable front box. The loads are insured to carry up to £10,000 on every load we do. So there are not many loads we carry that exceed that on a daily basis. It's not just about the bike, to coin a Lance Armstrong phrase. The Ecargo bike will do a certain amount with its load, but we can accessorise it. And who doesn't like an accessory? So we have a number of trailers that can be towed behind a cargo bike or an e-bike, which allows us to carry a Euro pallet with up to 180 kilo payload. So we can carry bags of cement, bags of compost on one of those. We have box trailers, which are fully sealed, where we can carry obviously brown cardboard boxes. They have clothes rails inside, pull out shelving, and that's around 2 meters cubed of capacity there. We have open trailers that can carry, 4x2 bits of wood for the building industry. We have a range of totes as well. So you can have thermal totes for -3 and -18 degrees Celsius cold chain transport, as well as ambient. So the list goes on, but I'll stop there as I'm running out of time, I'm sure. So that kind of gives you a range of abilities. In terms of the sweet spot delivery range for a cargo bike, it's really between 3 and 5 miles. Because we can be very productive unless it's a full load going a further distance. If you want multi-drop, 3 miles, 3 to 5 miles is the best for that. And it depends on what type of work we're doing, what type of client. Livia had some great stats on what we've done with parcels not pollution and zero emission miles covered. We've started also working with the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea on a very similar project to Hammersmith. So obviously news travels fast. And we are looking at a number of other projects with London boroughs to, in essence, rinse and repeat this type of project. But it's not just about local authorities. There are a number of businesses out there who are looking to reduce cost, increase profitability. And some of you may have heard on Friday a court case that was dismissed by the Supreme Court on gig economy with Uber. Finding out that they actually employ workers, not contractors, and therefore have to pay them holidays and this, that, and the other. So that is something that we have always are proud to do and pride ourselves on, that we have fully paid up employees that are paid London living wage, holiday, pension, etc., etc. So we set ourselves out to be vehemently anti-gig economy and have done, and that's part of our ethics and our migration to a B Corporation status going forward. Councillor Harcourt mentioned North End Road Market, and that's a new area for us. We have recently got our waste carriers licence, which allows us then to collect the used cardboard from North End Road Market and transfer it by roll cage on trailers to the Western Waste Transfer Station in Wandsworth. And we haven't started that yet. That will be starting in a week or so, but we believe that that will be cost neutral and even cost saving for the council, because cardboard, when recycled as just cardboard, costs circa £18 a tonne, whereas if it goes into mixed waste, it's £36 a tonne. So that service will pay for itself going forward. Have I reached the end of my time, Nicola?
You have, yes, okay. I'm afraid. We can always come back to you. We can always come back to you, David. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And then finally, we've got Libby Gibson, who is in the travel demand management team at TfL. Libby, it'd be great to give us like David, a kind of a broader perspective of what's happening across London, and what programmes maybe you have in place to make deliveries and servicing more efficient, reducing congestion, obviously, and improving air quality. So over to you, Libby.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for having me today. As Nicola mentioned, my name is Libby Gibson, and I work in the Travel Demand Management team at Transport for London. Our team's goal is to improve customer experience and experience of London by reducing congestion on London's public transport network, but also in this context, looking at the role that freight or deliveries and servicing plays in congestion, and how we might be able to work with people like businesses, innovators, retailers, business improvement districts like Hammersmith, and the freight industry across the capital to make freight more efficient and improve air quality. So there's lots going on at TfL on Healthy Streets. I'll just focus primarily on freight today and the role it has to play in making London's air cleaner. So by freight, I mean any vehicle carrying out any kind of delivery and servicing journey. So vans, lorries, that kind of thing. And in London, freight makes up a significant part of road traffic. So pre-pandemic, it made up 30% of all traffic entering London in the AM peak. 33% of road-based NOx emissions came from freight, and it cost London around £9.5 billion in direct and indirect costs. And in the pandemic, although freight has changed because industries have shut down and things like that, it's only become more important. Freight levels have dropped, but they haven't dropped as much as other traffic levels. And according to the latest retail stats, we're facing a 5-year acceleration in e-commerce growth, which many retailers think is here to stay. So you can see that freight and how we approach it as London opens up from this pandemic and as the UK opens up this pandemic will be really key to tackling congestion. So how do we do this and what do we mean by efficient freight? So in TDM, we work with retailers, carriers, intermediaries, bids, landowners, innovators to make freight more efficient, helping parcels get to where they need to be, driving the economy in the most efficient way. And we do this using the four principles. So we talk about remoding freight to more efficient methods like cargo bikes, water or rail, reducing journeys through consolidation, an example of which would be Hammersmith BID's Parcels Not Pollution project, which looks to consolidate deliveries into one central space, retiming journeys to quieter times, and rerouting journeys away from congested places. So you'll have heard a bit about the Parcels Not Pollution project from Livia. This is part of our Healthy Streets Fund for Business, which, although has been paused for round 4 due to the pandemic, was set up in 2017, and it's a match funding scheme that looks to help business groups to reduce their deliveries and make their area cleaner, safer, more accessible. So we recognise that some changes need enabling infrastructure. So this could be things like preferred supplier schemes, micro distribution centres, electric delivery, and the funds help bids to do this. Another good case study would be Better Bankside's Waste Consolidation project, where they used compactors in borough markets, collected all rubbish from local businesses, delivered it to borough market, compacted it, and in doing so took 70 diesel vehicles off the street each week and retimed the rest of the journeys overnight. Massive improvement in the local area. So although round 4 is currently paused due to the pandemic, we'll continue to fortify and grow the collaborative network around the fund and share the knowledge we've gained. Another area in which we're working at the moment is with innovators. We're currently running a Freight Lab Innovation Challenge, where we look to market innovators to help us address some of the knottiest freight issues that we face. We offer them things like funding, land sites, subject matter expertise. We've currently got 6 innovators, and our partners are helping out as well. Partners from across the freight industry. Initiatives look to reduce air and noise pollution. There's things like delivery software to make the last mile of a journey more efficient. And there's things that look to trial new methods around e-bikes and e-walkers. So we're looking forward to finding out a bit more about these methods and sharing the results so that we can all benefit from that knowledge base and help to make freight more efficient. And finally, we're working hard to understand how we might be able to work with industry to tackle this e-commerce demand as we move into recovery. It's evident that buying behaviours are changing, and this can have a knock-on effect on the amount of traffic on London's roads. And we're seeing, as London opens up, we're seeing it as an important habit-setting moment for consumers, as they'll be deciding how they want to get their deliveries, where they want to shop. We're also seeing it as a great opportunity to work with retailers, carriers, intermediaries, and to create this these conditions for a win-win e-commerce agenda that reduces congestion and also promotes sustainable growth. And over the coming months, we'll be looking at how we can work with the industry to do this. So my question for you today would be, how can you make your deliveries and servicing more efficient, and how can you reap the air quality and health benefits? And that's it from me. Back to you, Nicola.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Just such an amazing array of activities that are going on. Obviously, a lot going on in Hammersmith, which is just brilliant to hear. I'm going to go to Q&A, and actually, because we've already got a question from Neil Webster in the chat, so I'm going to ask this first, which is the take-up of cargo bike delivery directly related to cycle modal share in boroughs, or is there another influence here in play? Who would like to take that question? Maybe that's one for you, Libby.
Yeah, I would say it would be. Yeah, I would say I don't know about proportionality. That's something I can't answer. But I would say we work with a wide range of businesses, including Co-op doing 1 hour food delivery. So where e-commerce has opened up, especially in COVID times, we have seen peaks of that, and Co-op have risen from sort of 16 stores to over 60 in London offering that, of which we're delivering a proportion. So I would say if people want fast delivery and have an ethical leaning, we've seen a number of businesses with the ethics side want to embrace that far quicker, and I think they ever would.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a Wandsworth resident, and I don't think, sorry, anyone who's from Wandsworth Council in the audience, I don't see, apart from Sainsbury's, I don't see any other businesses selling that as a concept to me as an environmentally conscious person. So I think that's really interesting. Libby, did you want to come in on that question about the change in modal shift?
I wouldn't specifically know. I think it's a slightly different question, because obviously cycle modal share is people using it to travel and to commute. It's a slightly different audience, and so I guess there wouldn't be. I'd have to check the stats specifically. I would guess it's not directly related. I guess it's completely different. But I guess it's to David's point about things like the right conditions for Ecargo bike success. It's going to be much more around that and around business decisions rather than it is around specific cycle mode share. I'd probably hazard a guess.
Okay.
And sorry, just to add to that, I would say that also just educating businesses about what they can offer as well. So we've had ongoing since March, pretty much, a business network with the council every Wednesday, every 2 weeks, Wednesdays. And a lot of local businesses attend. And so when you tell them about, you could offer this to your customers, they're very interested. And that's when the shift begins to happen, and they start to think, what else can we offer? And also it's very convenient because obviously it often gets to your customers quicker than a van, or, we can have them on the road and they can use the cycle lanes. So it's a lot of education work going on as well, I would say.
I would say that I think Lydia's been very modest in the amount of time and effort she's put into talking to businesses as well, just to get them to understand what they can do and what is possible, and to take that leap of faith, because it's different to what they've done before, and what they're using isn't necessarily, it's working. So it's not necessarily a problem with what they. So why should they change? So it's just having those conversations, and the sign up of business, the amount of businesses that signed up in the first place, before the pre-pandemic, this is a testament to those conversations, but you do have to have them. But it's like pushing against an open door with a lot of people. The enthusiasm to improve, when you have the conversations about what the improvements will be, how many vehicles will be taken off the road, how many emissions will be saved, etc., etc. They're very powerful arguments to have.
And I expect hearing from people like Sean, who are completely committed to this agenda and can talk about savings as well, probably helps as well, doesn't it, to help make the case from the point of view of a local business person anyway, I would imagine. Yeah, Sean, or are you on mute?
Yes, sorry, Nicola. Yes, anybody who hasn't tried it, and you can see from the list of people who've already subscribed, it really is, a no-brain scenario. We've had absolutely no issues with it whatsoever from day one, and as Patricia pointed out, because of traffic, in the surrounding area, we often get it quicker than we would otherwise have it. So it really is a godsend, and to be doing the right thing as well, just reinforces it as far as I'm concerned. So if you haven't already tried it, give it a go. You won't be disappointed.
Excellent. So if you're in the audience, you want to ask any more questions, we've got a great panel here. Please do post your questions up. I've got one that's made me thinking about so the role of the Business Improvement District in championing air quality and sustainability in the places you support. So is this something that all bids are doing? I mean, obviously you're saying, Patricia, you picked up from the poll that this is one of the most important things that your members have said that, that they want the bid to be doing. But is this something, do you think, that's going on across the rest of London? Sort of maybe talk a bit more about what you're doing for the wider agenda. Yes,
it is gathering momentum, but we're still it's early days for a lot of people, and it is things like having the local authority backing things like and supporting and leading on some of the things as well. And we can't underestimate funding from TfL. That was a game changer. It just meant that we could actually make it happen. We could go to David, or it was David's predecessor at the time, but and with some proper funding to make it happen, and not just have a wonderful theory on our books. We had an actual live project. So those stars have to be aligned as well. And not everywhere will have that alignment just yet, but it is beginning to gather momentum. And we noticed that some of the bids in central London are now looking at this, and we've been having discussions as well. How to help the high street with this model as well, because obviously what's happened over the last 12 months has been had a tremendous effect, and some people argue it would have happened anyway, but it's definitely accelerated by at least 5 years. So we're suddenly we're 5 years down the line without necessarily 5 years infrastructure in place. So what we are now going to be doing another type of service under the umbrella of Parcel Not Pollution, and to help with free delivery support, so that people on the high street can compete a little bit closer to the online, if they can offer free deliveries as well, and all that side of things, to adapt what we have to the challenges of the day. And we felt very much like about this all the way through the pandemic. We immediately had to think about new models, new business models, and we did so. So it's a very flexible, adaptable thing to do. But from the bid point, I don't want to go on too long. If anybody else wants to leap in?
I was just going to say, Patricia, actually, I think this is what you were maybe going to acknowledge as well, about the fact that BID's role is also very much about facilitating and bringing different partners to the table. So bringing the right people together that can help to make this happen and help advance it. So having, the businesses on board, that is something that the BID can help with. As you mentioned, having the local authority to help, and the supplier as well. And I think also with we've touched on e-commerce, and one of the real challenges is also returns. I believe they make up even more of the kind of emissions and things like fast fashion. And that's something that Ecargo bikes are looking at as well. So it's something that, we're really thinking a completely new way of shopping. And Ecargo bikes can very much be a part of that, electric vehicles and electric transport. So it's quite an exciting time.
Thank you. Thanks both Patricia and Livia. So we've got a question for David from Francis Gannon, which is the Ecargo Bike Consolidation Centre a local authority facility or a private company facility? And are there any conflicts with Ecargo bike sharing cycle lanes with maybe slower bike traffic?
Okay, so let's take those off one by one. At the moment, the consolidation facility is our own hubs. So they are owned by us, leased by us. However, we are always looking for hub space and would certainly entertain reutilising unused space within a local authority, whether those are light industrial units or even we'll convert a shipping container and put it into a car park of a local authority yard where we can have some mechanical capability and bike storage. Any conflicts between cargo bikes sharing cycle lanes for slower traffic? I'm not aware of any at the moment. The width of a cycle lane does vary, especially the temporary ones, from very narrow to large, and I think they kind of often move over the course of a day and then get moved back again. Predominantly, we will be using most, whatever road possible. So whether that's cycle superhighways, and there may become a point where we don't use those dedicated lanes. We've also taken on board an EAV cargo quadricycle, which you may have seen on LinkedIn or in various articles, which we'll be testing and seeing how well that can use cycle lanes or is inhibited, and does it behave more like the bigger van and has to abide by those rules. So historically, we've been a very ants not elephants approach to deliveries, being light, agile and nimble with narrow cargo bikes because they can get through the pedestrianised bollards and other traffic calming measures to be used as normal cyclists. So it's just when you then increase the size of the vehicles, you then start behaving like the rest of the vehicles on the road. So that's R&D in progress at the moment.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And then I'm just like one last question from Loretta Hoy. Is there data or anecdotal evidence of business retention or support as a result of these interventions? Maybe that's a question for Patricia or Olivia.
Yes, there's certainly anecdotal evidence that, by providing this service, that's lessens the cost, because it means that we are offering so they don't have to either buy a cargo bike themselves, which some of our businesses have been looking at doing, but the cost was too high, and it's allowed them to stay open. So having that option, they may have wanted to close over either the first or maybe they did close over the first lockdown, but they were able to stay open this time as they had this option. But that is very much anecdotal at the moment. We haven't had a proper kind of survey or anything done, but we may look at doing that before the end of the year.
That'd be a nice idea. Yeah. Okay.
If I can add to that, Nicola, to say, it's great for businesses to buy their own Ecargo bikes. The more the merrier. We want everyone to adopt electric solutions. I would say, these bikes, if they're used very heavily, hours are used 8 in the morning till 10 at night, 6 days a week, and on Sundays, do require a lot of fettling and checking. So they have to be checked after every shift and repairs undertaken. And if you're a business that doesn't have a dedicated mechanic but has someone that knows a bit about bikes, it can be quite an admin burden to try and keep them on the road.
Okay, all right, thank you, David. Right, I want to wrap us up, because we definitely want to finish on time. So it's a question that I have for all of our panel members, and I'll just whiz round the screen, which is, how do you think the public and private sector can work together during 2021 to champion green recovery? And I guess this is really a reflection on everyone's been talking about nobody can do this on their own, can they? And partnership working is absolutely key, which is obviously what Patricia was just saying is part of the role of the BID, isn't it? Is just to facilitate those conversations. So the question to all, how do you think public and private sector can work together during 2021 to champion green recovery? And I'm going to come to Councillor Harcourt first, I think, and then Patricia, and then Sean.
Okay, thank you very much. It's absolutely essential that the council works with the various businesses to produce a green recovery. The last thing I think we want after this pandemic and all the problems that we've been going through is to have something that is led by heavy duty diesel transport and car led recovery. And that is one of the key dangers. So continuing to work with the David and Ecargo, the BID, the work we're doing down in Fulham with the Fulham equivalent down there, who've just set up a free electric van delivery service, which we're hoping to expand, making sure that businesses that we work with use the cleanest methodologies, such as, and one further example would be Tideway, who are doing the tunnelling under the Thames. We've insisted that the waste goes by barge rather than more diesel-powered lorries along the road. So absolutely essential. And mention was made earlier of the work done with Medicare in Hammersmith Grove to produce parklets. It's about making life and the city and the borough so much better for both the people, the employees, the workers and residents. And the only way we're going to do that is by a multi-stakeholder approach. It's communities have to work towards it, it's businesses, and it's changing that attitude and changing that approach to things and getting people to see the benefits in the longer term. Hopefully the pandemic, that's one of the positive sides that might come out of the pandemic.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor Harcourt. Sean, I think I said you next, did I? Or was it Patricia? I can't remember now. Sean.
I'm happy to jump in. I'm a great believer in cross-sector cooperation. I think as standalone entities, we really don't have the budgets. We haven't got the wherewithal. We haven't got the expertise or the knowledge. But as soon as we combine it, particularly with the context that the BID have and all of the other partners that they work with, within the borough, then we really are onto something really exciting. And I think that's what it's going to take, because we're going to do something we've never done before. But we have to do it for our sakes and for our children's sakes. So, yeah, I think it's the future, and I'm really excited about it.
Thanks very much, Patricia.
Yes, and I'd like to echo that. We will all have to work together, pull in the same direction. I think, I think of all the horrible things that happened in the pandemic, this idea of wanting to build back better, and to coin a phrase, and to take this opportunity to make a difference, it really is very tangible. And whoever you talk to, the various sectors that we've spoken to, as I say, we've done a lot of engagement, more engagement than we normally do because of the election. And that is coming out increasingly more and more, that that people want something that is more community based. They want to feel like they're part of something that is that's there and it's going to make things better. And that includes businesses, because businesses are made up of individuals, and that's what individuals are feeling at the moment. And we need to capture that. And we don't want to be the people that didn't move in the right way when the time was here. So we need to capture that and make sure that we deliver on what it is that businesses and people want. The public-private, it's what we do all the time anyway as a BID. So that it just makes sense that it's more of the future. The authority, the council is the authority. But to like everyone else, especially at the moment, if funding is coming from different places, and that's the private sector, why not work together? It makes sense.
Thank you very much. Going to go to David, then Libby, then Livia, and then we're going to wrap up. Thanks, David.
Okay. Together everyone achieves more, right, as the acronym goes. But I think that's very true. And, it'd probably be very easy for some local authority to go to some big utilities or large Serco-esque type player and say, solve the problem for me. But that really isn't going to work in this type of scenario. And using smaller SMEs like ourselves and our fellow players in the same market, can help with that. We have the local knowledge. We recruit local. So the societal circular economy piece is ticked off. We will upskill people as well. So we're not shipping in, people commuting long distances to do our work. So I think for the local economy, it works. You have local knowledge like London Cabbies. The knowledge is key, even when making deliveries on a cargo bike and using the best routes. And, I it's great that Hammersmith, having worked in other businesses where local authorities are saying, oh, it's big tendering processes, it's a nightmare, do you want to even work with them because of the admin, and it's, you either win or lose. Whereas this kind of approach is very collaborative. I think, it is certainly a partnership. And from 20 years on the other side of the fence, where it's been fantastic to embrace this. And the local authority is so keen and positive, and as are others in London, to get this job done and to be innovative and be agile, quick and dirty trials. Does this work? And I think for me, the key thing is it's outreach. Outreach from everyone, from local authority, putting it in their newsletters, to the bid, to us pounding the streets, talking to the businesses, showing them the bikes, what can and can't be done, dissuading the myths and urban legends or what have you, is all part of the battle. And once people see it, they go, yeah, I'll sign up.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Libby and then Livia.
Thanks, Nicola. So I guess for us, similar to what Patricia was saying, kind of partnership working and cross-sector working is something that we do all the time. And it's really key to success. And I especially think it's really, really important when we're talking about freight and this kind of healthy streets agenda, because healthy streets is only really achievable if we all make small changes to enable it. So in terms of what we could do to work together, I guess so firstly, knowledge sharing. We have lots of things like, we have loads of case studies from working with business improvement districts, from working with businesses from all kinds, that we're really keen to share. And we're really keen to hear more about the challenges and the opportunities that you have as well, around things like consolidation, retiming, all those different things. Secondly, it would be about kind of individual businesses making decisions that will support healthy streets aims. So decisions about how they make and receive their B2B deliveries. Do they want to be part of a preferred supplier scheme? Do they want to request Ecargo bike delivery? Right down to how they might be able to run kind of sustainable B2C offering. So focusing on reducing missed deliveries to people's homes, reducing returns, consolidating customer deliveries. And then thirdly, I guess there's this partnership working idea, which is much more in the vein of kind of the healthy streets fund for business type work, where we kind of look to work with people who might have land or who might have other kind of other opportunities available to them, and see what we can maximize, see what we can really do to maximize how we can kind of reduce freight in that area using those resources. So I guess those are the three main things, but it's just really remaining open and sharing knowledge and opportunities and challenges, and working through it together. And I think that's how that's going to be really key to green recovery.
Okay, thanks, Libby. A final word with you, Livia.
Thanks. Yes, I certainly concur with everyone here. So I just say harnessing all of our strengths and skills, working together to whether that's bringing together the funding, the knowledge to really make the change happen. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, panel. I think that's been a really fascinating and such a positive and inspiring discussion this afternoon. And I sort of, just to echo what other people have said, I just really think there's an opportunity now. We've seen at Future of London just so many new partnerships coming together, lots of people working in completely different ways, lots of public, private, community partnerships coming up. And I really think we've got this fantastic opportunity to do things differently, and lots of emphasis on that green recovery. So loads of potential and just fantastic. Well, congratulations to Hammersmith, for really sort of leading the way in this. I'm going to hand back to Ros now, who's going to just sum up and I think share some of the events that we've got coming up through the rest of the week. But before I go, I just want to wish all the best to Patricia and Livia for your vote, which, as you mentioned earlier, started today. So best of luck with that. I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. And thanks once again, panel, and thanks audience for your great questions as well. Over to you, Ros.
Well, thank you, Nicola, and thanks very much to our panel for a really interesting session. And with 2021, this could be one of the most significant years in UK history for driving green investment with COP26. coming up, and we're looking forward to this topic and these kinds of topics being considered in more detail, focusing on specific areas and projects across the UK during this week of events. Looking ahead, audience, we'd be delighted to see you at our other sessions this week. Today we have a developed Croydon session about South London's knowledge economy starting in 10 seconds. But tomorrow we have London Keynote. We also have an event focused on sustainable growth around Parliament, one from Orpington BID for anyone wanting more about sustainable town centres, and one I'm looking forward to very much, which will discuss the opportunity that the agri-tech sector offers to our economy. Fabulous stuff. So I hope you can tune into some or all of those. Thank you very much for joining our opening panel. We look forward to seeing you at another Real Estate Live UK event this week. Thank you and goodbye.